Hey, what is up? Long time no see. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario. OakRidgeFord.com. 0% and low rates going until the end of the month. And then after that, all bets are off. If you're looking for a vehicle, now is the time. June is a great month to buy, and I'm the guy you want to do it with. I'm your man for Leafs content. Let me be your dude for your next vehicle. Norm in London, Mike in Buffalo. It is Sunday, June 15th, 2025. Happy Father's Day to all you fathers, OGs, and converts, and any guests who join the podcast frequently. We appreciate you, and thanks for spending some time with us today. Lots to get to. Florida on the verge of a second straight Stanley Cup final. Then again, maybe not so fast. The Oilers have other plans, and when they go into Florida, they typically do pretty well. So I think this thing might be headed for 7. Mr. Augello, haven't seen you in a while. What's on your mind?
Well, I enjoyed the game last night because sort of like Game 5 in Toronto for the second round, the team at home didn't show up against the Florida Panthers. Do I think the Oilers can still win this series? Sure.
Right.
But, you know, I look at Edmonton, and we'll talk about the Leafs in a second, but I look at Edmonton and they don't have goaltending. They don't have defense. They just have two of the best players in the world, and they have ridden that. And the fact that they have an easier path going to the Stanley Cup final than any team in the East. And right now they're on the precipice of losing to the same team 2 years in a row.
But if they win, how does that change your perception of Connor McDavid, who's already considered by many the best player on the planet, and really a throwback to when the best players were the best players of all time?
I don't think it changes at all. I think he's one of the best players of all time. But, one player does not, or two players does not a team make.
But if they win the cup, Mike, they've mission accomplished.
Yeah, but I still don't think that they're going to, because I don't think they're a good enough team. I think Florida is a more complete team. And, this is a team that added a 37-year-old top 6 forward from the Bruins and places the guy on the third line, and he's been devastating. And Sam Bennett, who has had a playoff for the ages, you don't see players. There are no players that are equal like that on the second and third line in Edmonton. It's all Draisaitl and McDavid and not much else.
Okay. Two teams built differently with potentially 3 games to go. We shall see how it pans out. I'm rooting for the Oilers. I know a lot of people in Canada are rooting for the Oilers because they like to see the cup come back to this country, and others may be just sick and tired of seeing Florida do what it does in less than spectacular fashion. Just roll up the sleeves, go to work, hit everything that moves, and just outlast your opponent. Mike, I can tell you right now, Leafs fans want some of what the Florida Panthers have, and to be able to integrate that into the complexion of our team and play that kind of hockey potentially and win potentially down the line. We've learned that Mitch Marner has, made it known that he is not coming back to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and we certainly wish him well. But his vacating of the organization is a good thing, because now it opens up opportunity for the Maple Leafs to begin the transformation into a team more like the Florida Panthers, or any team that just wants to work day in and day out to accomplish its goals.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of chuckled, and I'm not slagging Andy Strickland, who's a longtime NHL reporter, but he came out with a report, I think it was yesterday, that said, I can confirm that Mitch Marner is not coming back to Toronto. Oh, gee, spoiler alert. I mean, give me a break. It's like we've known that for a while. I know that ever since he rejected the no, or refused to waive the no move clause to go to make a trade to Carolina, you pretty much knew that he was gone. Okay, I don't have any personal animus towards Mitch Marner. I'm sure there are a lot of fans who will. I'm sure he's Matt Sundin 2.0. We know that a sizable chunk of this fan base despises and continues to despise Matt Sundin for the failure to waive.
I wonder who they're led by. Huh.
Oh yeah, me. I didn't never made a secret of that. It's but okay. It's like, it was in his contract. He had every right to use it. But now it's to the point now where it sounds as if he's not even going to allow them to trade his rights for draft picks, or that he's not interested in the sign and trade. Elliot Friedman reported that he may take a shorter deal, sort of like Matthews did, like a 4-year deal, and expect probably to be paid the highest paid salary in the league, just so he can hit and get one more payday at age 32. Maybe that's smart because the cap is going up. We don't know what the cap is going to be in 4 years, so that might be the smart thing to do.
But he's also risking a decline potentially.
That's true, and we know what Mitch Marner is. His game is based on speed, and it's based on his ability to avoid contact. And I'm not saying in a negative fashion, but he's not a big guy and he's very elusive. He doesn't get hit very often, and that's an integral part of his game. If he loses a step, then he's I'm not saying he's an average player, but everybody who loses a step, they have to adjust their game. And from the Toronto perspective here, yes, it opens up $11 million in cap space, but the question is, what can they do with it? This is not a strong free agent market. The one thing that Brad Treliving has to be cognizant of is to keep his powder dry and maybe not go out and try to sign somebody to replace Mitch Marner, but maybe, go out and sign a couple players to 1-year deals like they did a couple years ago with Max Domi and Tyler Bertuzzi, and then wait for that 2026 free agent market. But I don't know whether he can do that with the landscape of Toronto and how high pressure it is and people wanting them to, always go for it.
You're watching the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford in London, Ontario, oakridgeford.com. Mike in Buffalo, Norm in London. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. Dyslexic, an OG, highest paid, ludicrous. You know what, Diz? In the next couple of weeks, it may be a real thing, whether you like it or not.
Face it. I mean, the cap is going up. He may. The thing is, he may not be the highest paid because if McDavid signs an 8-year extension in Edmonton, he's going to be the highest paid player in the league. But if McDavid doesn't sign on July 1st, then the bidding war for Marner is going to be intense because the cap is going up and there's a lot of teams that have a lot of cap space.
Right.
I will give you, and I've said this before, I will give you the scenario that will make Mitch Marner the most hated player in Toronto. And that is if he signs a contract with Carolina after blocking the trade in March. If he goes to Carolina in free agency, preventing the Leafs from getting Mikko Rantanen and then going there, then I think he's going to be really hated. Now, do I think that that's going to be right or wrong? No, I'm not going to say that because that's up to everybody's personal and individual right of expression. But right. I'm just saying he will be better off in terms of the way he is perceived in his own hometown, if he even cares about that. Right. If he signs a contract, and the talk is more than likely he's going to Utah or Anaheim or LA or maybe Vegas, he's going west. I don't think he wants the attention and the pressure of going to an Eastern Conference team and facing the Leafs multiple times every year. So that's why I think he's going to end up playing in the Western Conference.
Are any Canadian teams in on him? Because I cannot see him staying in Canada to play.
I haven't heard him connected to anybody. I mean, right. you would think a team like maybe Vancouver would, might. I mean, I don't know if they have the cap space. Edmonton clearly doesn't, but because they're paying Draisaitl and McDavid. So, I mean, and I don't see him going to a rebuilding team like Calgary. Right. There was some chatter for 3 seconds about Ottawa, and I'm like, oh my God, that's not happening. So, but yeah.
This is the thing is we know Mitch Marner. We've watched him grow right before our very eyes, become a 100-point player, facilitate greatness, do amazing things, and then leave, other aspects of the game that are required to become a full-fledged superstar, not not come together. Where do you think Mitch Marner is best suited to play? Because when you bring up any team that is willing to be physical, it doesn't make sense for a guy like that to go play there when that's just not the style of play that is conducive to elevating his game. So which organization do you think, whether they want him or not, would be a good destination for the type of hockey he plays?
I mean, Anaheim is a rebuilding club. I think they're going to be better. I think they're going to make the playoffs. They've added Kreider. They've added, Trouba last year. Joe Quenneville is their coach. I mean, Marner is sort of like a Patrick Kane type of player where he's not physical, but he's extremely creative. Mm-hmm. I mean, he could fit in that system. I think the perfect fit for him would be LA because they're a really good defensive team, and all they really need is a scorer.
And I think he'd like to play in LA too.
Yeah,
he's chasing the bag, and he wants notoriety as well.
Well, no, I think it's actually the opposite. I mean, in LA, he blends into the woodwork. I mean, the LA Clippers, the LA Lakers, the Dodgers.
But that type of notoriety, to be out in Hollywood with the big names for him personally, but still when he wants to be overshadowed by the epicenter of sports.
He can go down Rodeo Drive and nobody is going to know who the hell he is. So that's fine.
Yeah. Look, I can't see Darren Ferris spearheading anything that would come across as vindictive at the end of the day, superseding what his goals are as an agent and representing his player to make as much money as possible. However, it could come across that way dependent on where Mitch Marner decides to end up playing. And just in the background, don't you think quietly or potentially loudly when it's all said and done, his dad and even Mitch himself would like to take one last shot at the Maple Leafs for the way things kind of went down when it all finished off?
By shot, do you mean like a stab, or do you mean just like a shot, like being like trying to re-sign with them?
Well, no, but again, he's not going to do anything to help the Maple Leafs. Why would he? Why would he? I mean, again, sign and trade, forget about it. But you had mentioned that, okay, well, if he waives a trade to Carolina and then goes and signs with them, I mean, talk about a one last kick in the ass on his way out the door, and usually it's the other way around.
Well, if it was his goal to sign an 8-year deal with somebody and he's not interested in signing with the Leafs, then the only way he could do that is a sign and trade. But if he's according to Elliot Friedman, he is open to shorter deals, then that sort of goes by the wayside. And if he's not open to having his rights traded and negotiating before July 1st, then that, anything of trading his rights it goes by the wayside as well. So I don't know if it's animus toward the Leafs organization. I mean, some people have said, well, this goes back to Lou Lamoriello saying, like he's not going to give him bonuses and stuff like that. I don't know. All I know is I think right now, I can't see the Leafs organization paid him almost $11 million for 6 years. I think they treated him pretty damn well. Yep. We don't know behind the scenes what's going on, but I have never heard of them like slighting him. Yeah. But he's gonna do what he's gonna do, and Paul Marner is gonna do what he's gonna do. Darren Ferris is just the mechanism for that. He's the agent, and Darren Ferris has to do business with Brad Treliving and other GMs. So I don't think he's going to do anything personally. That's just not, it doesn't behoove him in terms of his operating his business to do that.
He works for the Marners. His job is to get them the best situation going forward at the most dollars. And I think that's going to happen in terms of the latter. When it comes to the former, I mean, that's up to Mitch and that's up to the team that signs him. Bottom line here, Mike, in the next few weeks, maybe a month, dependent on how things go, Mitch Marner is going to sign on the dotted line with another team, and he will move on. Leafs fans need to do the same. This is the Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford. Like the content, subscribe to the channel. What else do you want to get to? Buyout options not being explored, being explored. I heard Max Pacioretty is still on the Leafs' radar, whether he wants to come back or not. I would absolutely love to see that after they sign Brad Marchand on July 1st. I mean, they're going to have a bunch of guys who are getting older, but have a bit of a different type of tenacity that we want to see from this team. What's on your mind, Mike?
Well, I mean, if the Stanley Cup final is proof of anything, it's proof that an older player can have an effect. I mean, Corey Perry, that rat, is an effective player. He's, and he's 40 years old. He's, I think he's probably a Hall of Famer. He won an MVP, he won a Stanley Cup. He's been to 4 Stanley Cup finals in the last 5 years. Still an effective player. He can't play 20 minutes a night like he used to, but he's still effective. Brad Marchand at 37, he could win the Conn Smythe the way things are going. He's at 5 goals in the final.
Right.
Max Pacioretty made a difference. He only played 37 games this year, but he made a difference, especially when it counted. And apparently, there was a report that he wants to come back. Now, at the end of the season, he said, it was tough because his family lives in Michigan and they didn't move to Toronto and uprooting. I think he has 5 kids, so he didn't want to uproot his family.
They live in Michigan? I thought they lived in New York.
No, he's from Long Island, but apparently they live in Michigan.
That's not that far away. Like, unless he wants to go play for the Red Wings or maybe just shut it down altogether.
No, I mean, it sounds like he wants to come back with the Leafs. I mean, that was the report, and they want him back. So I wouldn't be surprised if a deal gets done. But my point is that you can find players that, Jamie Benn was effective with Dallas, a player in their late 30s. Now, you don't want a roster of those guys, but 2 or 3 guys sprinkled throughout the lineup can be effective. Jason Spezza was great as a Leaf, but he couldn't play a ton of minutes. So, I mean, that might be a direction that Brad Treliving goes on July 1st.
But Mike, sorry to interrupt you, but you sign these guys with the expectation they're not playing a full season. When, it would have been nice to have Max Pacioretty play 60+ games, but you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared for long periods where they're not with the team, and to have them return like Pacioretty did right when it matters most going into playoffs.
Well, I mean, okay, if they're healthy all the time, then you can't play them 16, 17 minutes a night. You have to play them 13 or 14. That's what younger players can do in your lineup. Right. Or you load manage them. I mean, everybody knew Max Pacioretty could have come back in late March. They just held him out the last 3 weeks of the regular season so he could be fresh going into the playoffs. So, I mean, I'm just saying, if there are veteran players out there, and that may actually be beneficial to the Leafs, they go out and sign these players to 1-year contracts and then go into free agency in the summer of 2026 with more cap space and with the cap going up. But I like that may be the way to go. I mean, I think that's one thing. I think that the buyout now, at first the indication was that they were exploring potentially the buyout option on a few players. They didn't mention names. They said bottom forward guys, and you can only assume that meant David Kampf. It meant Ryan Reeves. It meant maybe Kalle Järnkrok. Now it sounds like they're not going to do that. One, I think there's a possibility out there that they can find a home for David Kampf. David Kampf is not a Berube type player. Berube did not like playing him. He only played him in the playoffs when there was an injury. He didn't play particularly well down the stretch. He's got 2 years left at $2.4 million. I would suspect, and I have no proof on this, I'm just putting 2 and 2 together. The guy who was his former coach, who now coaches the New Jersey Devils, that might be a fit. Or the general manager who traded for him, who's in Pittsburgh. Now they're rebuilding, but they need bodies if they're trading players out. So I think they'll be able to move camp. Järnkrok's only got a year left, $2.1 million. He'll be healthy going into training camp. That one I don't think is going to be an issue. I think they can keep him around. He can play 4th line. Ryan Reeves, simply I would say, Ryan, if you don't retire, you're spending your last year on the bus going to Utica. You're not playing on the Leafs. You're playing on the Marlies, and we're going to save the $1 million+ that burying you in the minors saves us.
Why do I feel like could happen, but may not happen? Why do I still feel like Ryan Reeves, whether you like it or not, in terms of how management views him, has a place on this team?
Well, I mean, if he did, they wouldn't have waived him and sent him to the Marlies at the trade deadline. And he didn't, and he only came up after the season was over with, when the cap was not a factor. He can't play in this league anymore. He's a liability on the ice, and he doesn't fight. What did he fight once last year? That was his whole main claim to fame, was being a deterrent. He's no longer a deterrent, so he does not belong on this roster.
Well, guys who don't integrate into the plan, and that plan's got to be thought out to as much of an extent as possible based on what was lacking throughout that series with Florida. Then you move on. And again, none of these guys are really players of major impact, but could but in essence save the team a few extra dollars that they could reallocate to other kinds of players. My boy Timbo, I haven't seen him in a while. How do we feel about Patrick Kane on a 1-year deal?
Well, there's a relationship between Patrick Kane and Austin Matthews. I don't know whether, I mean,
what does he bring? What does he bring? Does he kind of make up for what Mitch Marner leaves behind in terms of his creativity and playmaking? But you got to think of Easton Cowan potentially moving into that role as well. But I mean, have a future Hall of Famer kind of be a big brother to a guy who's just making his entrance into the league. That might work.
I haven't heard anything in regards to Detroit and whether Kane is being brought back there. I mean, some people have put together the possibility with Jonathan Taves coming back that maybe Kane and Taves would want to reunite someplace. I don't believe that's going to happen, because it sounds like Taves is going to end up going to Winnipeg. I mean, that's not the worst idea in the world. I mean, it's a possibility, because I don't think Kane is ever going to play in Buffalo, but I don't think he would want to. I don't think it would be something that he would not be happy with, playing as close to Buffalo as he can. And Toronto, I mean, we know Toronto is a contender, even though they can't get past the second round. Playing with Matthews, playing with Matthew Nyes, you have an American line there. I mean, I think that's a possibility. It's a question of how much term does he want,
right,
and how healthy he is. And he played most of the season last year, but it's not a bad idea.
If you were looking to begin the metamorphosis from where the team left off into a Florida Panthers type of unit, where does a guy like Pat Kane fit in, right? Well, I mean, that's not like the team is devoid. Like, it's not like you're going to lose Mitch Marner, and there's some offensive creativity that you're not going to have, but you still have a lot of offensive guys. So the team needs a little bit more sandpaper, and I don't know how Pat Kane helps that along. But then again, as you say, not the worst idea in the world to have him for 1 year and maybe chip in a few goals, plus the experience that he brings. The guy's won 3 cups. I mean, that doesn't hurt to have that kind of person around, especially as he's kind of winding down his career. And the Leafs are in a spot where they need all the successful kind of players they can get.
They need the size and they need the sandpaper, as you just stated, but they also need the scoring to replace the scoring that Marner takes with him as he goes to greener pastures. Kane had 59 points last year in 72 games, 21 goals.
Good. Yeah.
Pretty good. 36 years old. So he probably can't expect to sign anything longer than a 2-year deal. So a 2-year deal in Toronto, it probably would be $6.5 million, $7 million. I mean, the other thing that seems to be coming out is with the cap going up, as much as teams would like to get some of their young players locked up on long-term deals, with the uncertainty of the cap, some of these players might put that off for a couple of years because the number is going up. So that could indicate that, in spite of the fact that Matthew Nyes might want to sign an 8-year deal and the Leafs might want to sign an 8-year deal, they may push it down the road and sign a 2-year deal where the Leafs still have some rights. Now, I want to get him signed to an 8-year deal right now, but if they can't do that, then a 2-year deal, holding on to him for 2 more years, getting him at maybe $6.5 million. It doesn't kill them on the cap. It locks them in, keeps them happy. The Leafs are happy, and that gives them flexibility to make some other moves.
A couple of other names: Anthony Stolarz and John Tavares. What are you hearing on them?
Well, and this made sense, and I thought of this during the season, and Elliot Friedman has reported. After the Brock Nelson contract, which was 3 years at $7.5 million, that may have complicated the Tavares negotiations. I don't think it did. I think the whole plan all the way along was to sign him to a Chris Tanev type deal, meaning a 6-year deal, spreading the AAV out a little bit. So the number would be, say, $5 million, but in the first 3 years he gets paid. And that's, that makes sense for them. And it makes sense for him. So I think that's the way it's going to end up being. I just do not see any possibility of them not re-signing John Tavares, because if they don't, what is their center situation? What are they going to do? Will you move William Nylander back to center for 3 games and then put him back on the wing? They have no second line center, and Max Domi is a bad third line center. He's going to be a pretty crappy second line center.
Right.
And Anthony Stolarz, he's eligible for an extension after July 1st or on July 1st. There was a snippet out there that I think it was, Craig Button reported it.
Has he done enough to warrant an extension?
Well, it depends on what the extension is. I mean, he's over the age of 30. He's had one really good year. It depends, if you're talking about $4.5 million for 2 years. You're still, if you're talking about, then your tandem of Stolarz and Wall is $8 million. If you sign Stolarz to that amount, that's more money than he's ever made in his career. That's still below like half the teams in the league in terms of what they spend on their goaltending.
And it still gives the Maple Leafs flexibility, because we know, especially in Toronto, we've seen goalies come and go. They've hit a peak and fallen apart. Jack Campbell. I mean, you really have to be careful if they're not, if you're not unearthing a generational player or in line to bring on a Carey Price type of goaltender from the draft out. You really have to be careful with these guys and how much money you commit to them, because just because they had a great season in the past doesn't mean they're going to have another great season going forward. I mean, it's so volatile, Mike, when it comes to how we view these goaltenders and how they produce. Last couple of words to you, and we'll get out of here.
Yeah, it gives them options, and it gives also the young goaltenders they have in their system time to develop. Tiamov and Hildeby. I mean, they're 2-3 years away, so you have to do that. And the other interesting thing is where the Leafs are going to go in free agency. And I'm not talking about the top. I do not think they're going to get into the bidding on Nikolai Ehlers. I do not think they're going to get on the bidding of somebody like Brock Besser. I think they're going to target players that are middle 6 guys or even 4th liners. If you look at the Stanley Cup final,
Sam Bennett out in your mind?
What's that?
Sam Bennett, he's out.
I think Sam Bennett's re-signing in Florida. All the indications are he's going to stay in Florida. Florida probably pay him, and I don't believe Aaron Ekblad may be on the market, but I don't see Aaron Ekblad coming to Toronto, so that doesn't make any sense.
But Bennett will make it to free agency and elect.
No, I think he'll sign before July 1st.
Oh, okay.
If he gets to free agency, I think the Leafs will be in on him. But I think in the end he stays in Florida.
We'll talk about a risky signing anyway. I mean, it still may happen if there's an outside shot. But I mean, you're a guy with a lot of mileage on him, plays a tough brand of hockey, who may or may not integrate well into this group of players on the Maple Leafs who are highly talented, but don't necessarily share the same value system when it comes to how they want to accomplish their goals on the ice.
Yeah, and I started writing for Hockey Hot Stove. some players I think will be free agent targets. And number one on my list, and believe me, I'm not the only one who's thinking this, is Brandon Tanev. If you're talking about a bottom six forward who plays with energy, who's physical, who's a penalty killer, which will be important because Marner is leaving, Brandon Tanev blocks shots, he's an energizer bunny.
Right. Okay.
And the fact that his brother is playing here and the fact that he's from Toronto, I think is a reason why he may, and probably, and I'm not saying it's a lock, but it makes a lot of sense. So I think that's somebody who you bring in. He's not a star, but his workmanlike effort, that is part and parcel with changing the DNA, as Brad Treliving has discussed.
How are you getting Maple Leafs fans set for July 1st and beyond? What is your message to them about how the Leafs could potentially do business, and whether what they do gives this fan base an indication that 25-26 is going to be just as good a year as the one that's gone by, or potentially worse?
Different does not mean worse. I do not think that they're going to go, in spite of the fact that some people have told me, oh, they're going to make a big move. Okay. I don't see it.
It would have to be through trade, wouldn't it?
Right. Exactly. I mean, or if it's in free, there is no free agent here in terms of an unrestricted free agent.
Right.
That, is the equal of Marner or somebody who, if Bennett signs in Florida, I mean, he's the only one who would be a sort of a difference maker on the market. So I don't see the big move there. And trade, they don't have any draft picks, and they're not trading a guy like Matthew Nyes, and I really don't think they're trading a kid like Easton Cowan. So I don't see it. I see basically targeted free agent signings, preferably short-term deals. Some veterans who could make a difference, like a Patrick Kane, makes perfect sense, but I don't know if that's going to happen. But my advice to Leaf fans is cool your jets. Don't be pissed off if they don't make a big splash on July 1st and think they're all of a sudden going to fall apart. This is a good team. They've got good pieces. They need to sort of operate around the edges and add the right type of players to have success when it counts. Great. They're a fantastic regular season team. Who gives a crap? You get in the playoffs, and then that's when it starts.
It's the guys from within who will have to elevate this team next season, Mike. Everyone else who could potentially come on board will augment the group, maybe accentuate it a little bit, fill in a couple of holes. But you've said this often. The 2025 free agency class leaves a lot to be desired. Why the hell would you commit tons of money that ties you up financially for years to come when there's really not a hell of a lot to spend it on? So it remains to be seen. What else is going on at Hockey Hot Stove, Mike?
Well, we're just getting ramped up for the draft coming up in a couple weeks,
right?
And free agency on July 1st. I encourage everybody to go to the website. I write every day. I'll have the latest Leafs news, and it's also the home for Off the Post and Leafs Convo and all of our podcasts.
Yeah, thank you for doing what you do, Mr. Augello. We appreciate you very much. Let's just wrap this thing up. OG's Converts, like the content, subscribe to the channel. Mike and I will be producing content throughout the summer months. It won't be as frequent as it's been over the last several months, but the drill in the summer. Mike and I will come together to provide what you need to keep you going, to keep you strung along, and then we'll begin season 8 at some point into late August, early September. Mr. A, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. I hope you have a fantastic Sunday afternoon in southwestern New York. For Mike, I'm Norm. The Leafs Convo for Oak Ridge Ford is out. Happy Father's Day, everyone. We'll see you again soon.